Good Wednesday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversation Daily News. Glad you all could be with us. Of course, you have news headlines coming up on this hump day. Have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. And in today's news you can use, I speak with Hilary Crow, the Vice President of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, to discussing the National Civic Bee and how your middle schoolers can be a part of it. You don't want to miss that. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Wednesday headlines and international news. Thousands more flee northern Gaza as Israeli troops battle Palestinian militants. Fighting between Israeli troops and Palestinian militants in northern Gaza caused another 200,000 people to flee south in the past 10 days, the UN Humanitarian Office said on Tuesday. The Humanitarian Office, known as OCHA, said only one hospital in the north is capable of treating patients. Some of the fighting is around hospitals where patients, newborns, and medics are stranded with no electricity and dwindling supplies. Israel accuses Hamas of using hospitals as cover for its fighters, alleging that Hamas has set up its main command center in and beneath the hospital, the largest in the besieged territory. Both Hamas and the hospital staff deny the Israeli allegations. The southern part of Gaza is not much safer. Israel carries out frequent airstrikes against what it says are militant targets that often kill women and children. More than two-thirds of Gaza's population of 2.3 million have fled their homes since the war began. Gaza City, the largest urban area in the territory, is the focus of Israel's campaign to crush Hamas, following the militant group's deadly October 7th incursion into southern Israel that set off the war. More than 11,000 Palestinians, two-thirds of them women and minors, have been killed since the war began, according to the health ministry in Gaza, which does not differentiate between civilian and militant deaths. About 2,700 people have been reported missing. More than 1,200 people in Israel died, most of them in the Hamas attack, and about 240 hostages were taken from Israel into Gaza by Palestinian militants. In a related story, March for Israel in Washington draws tens of thousands. Supporters of Israel have rallied by the tens of thousands on Washington's National Mall, voicing solidarity in the war against Hamas and crying never again. Many of the demonstrators at the March for Israel wore Israeli flags wrapped around their shoulders, flowing behind them, or held small Israeli flags in their hands. I hope that it shows solidarity with Israel, said Jackie of Rockville, Maryland, who came with friends from New York. And I hope that it raises awareness for the hostages that are currently in danger. Overlooking a sea of Israeli and U.S. flags, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Speaker Mike Johnson, and the House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries came together on the stage. "We stand with Israel," Schumer chanted. Security was tight, with dump trucks blocking access to the mall and police dispersed throughout the area and on horseback. The show of support for Israel comes as condemnation of the mounting civilian casualty toll and suffering has grown worldwide. Earlier this month, tens of thousands of pro-Palestinian demonstrators marched in cities ranging from Washington to Milan to Paris. In national news, illegal border crossings into the U.S. drop in October after a 3-month streak of increases. Illegal border crossings from Mexico fell 14% in October from a month earlier, U.S. authorities said Tuesday, ending a 3-month streak of big increases. U.S. officials highlighted the resumption of deportation flights to Venezuela on October the 18th, shortly after Venezuelans replaced Mexicans as the largest nationality appearing at the border. Arrests of Venezuelans plummeted 45% to 29,637 from 54,000, still second only to Mexicans. Arrests for illegal crossings totaled 188,000 for all nationalities in October, down from 218,000 in September, which was the second highest month on record. In more national news, jury in Breonna Taylor federal civil rights trial opens deliberations in case of ex-officer. A jury began deliberations Monday afternoon at the federal trial of a former Louisville police officer accused of violating Breonna Taylor's civil rights by opening fire on her apartment the night she was killed in a botched raid. The jury received the case on a day when the former officer was grilled by a federal prosecutor over his actions at the time the 26-year-old woman was killed. Taylor was shot to death by police after they knocked down the door of her apartment on March 13, 2020. And finally, in business news, what's pushing inflation down? More goods, workers, and housing. Long past its painful peak, inflation in the United States may be heading steadily back toward its pre-pandemic levels without the need for further interest rates by the Federal Reserve, says the Associated Press. Such a scenario became more likely, if hardly guaranteed, after Tuesday's surprisingly tame report on consumer prices for October. The Labor Department's data showed a broad-based easing of inflation across most goods and services. The price of gas, down. Appliances, down. Autos, down. Same for airfares, hotel rooms, and doctor fees. Overall, inflation didn't rise from September to October, the first time that consumer prices collectively haven't budged from one month to another in more than a year. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Wednesday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. Feeling caged in by your circumstances? Give yourself permission to be free. You were created to be the greatest representation of yourself imaginable. Do not settle for anything less. You matter. Your life has purpose. With faith, nothing is impossible. Have an amazing hump day. Hilary Crow, the vice president at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, is in today's entertainment spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your news you can use. Hilary Crow, the vice president at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about the National Civic Bee and give us more information. Here's a bit of our conversation.
Hilary, thank you again for the time. Really appreciate it.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, this is definitely a great topic for our audience. We love things that, of course, gets us to learn, and, of course, a great opportunity for middle schoolers as well. As I mentioned, Hilary, we know a lot about the National Spelling Bee, but what is the goal of the National Civic Bee?
The National Civics Bee is a nationwide competition that encourages young Americans to engage in civics and contribute to their communities. The middle school students in grades 6, 7, and 8 can flex their civics knowledge for a chance to win recognition and cash prizes.
Well, that is a cool thing, and especially for those kids who love to be able to learn and to be able to share information. I think that's definitely great for them to be able to know about. Why is civics education so important, Hilary?
We believe that every American and young person, whether they want to grow up to be a plumber or a president, that they really need to understand how our government works and what their role, rights, and responsibilities are as citizens.
So important. I think that education starting early, I think, is something all of us would agree on. So when it comes to the actual competition itself, how can students win a spot to compete nationally?
Well, I should say that students, parents, teachers, everyone should go to nationalcivicsbee.org to learn more. How the competition works is that students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade can submit an essay, which is 500 words or less, about an issue in their community and how they could improve it or solve it by using civics. The top 20 scoring essays, those students are selected to participate in a live local competition. The top finalists at the local level advance to a state level competition, and then the state champions from each state will advance to the national round of the competition hosted in Washington, D.C.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. But we've got on tomorrow's more news, message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and of course, entertainment spotlight. Until then, we're host Cyrus Webb saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. So let's go make today amazing. Take care.